Hi, Morgan Freeman here. I want to talk to you about a serious, rare heart condition called ATTR cardiac amyloidosis, or ATTR-CM. Now, I don't have the condition myself, but if you're living with ATTR-CM, it's important to know about treatment options like Attruby, also known as acoramidis, because you have the power of choice when it comes to treatment. Attruby is an old medicine used to treat adults with ATTR-CM to reduce death and hospitalization due to heart issues. Tell your doctor if you're pregnant, plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding, and about the medications you take. The most common side effects were mild and included diarrhea and abdominal pain. If you have ATTR-CM, talk to your cardiologist about Attruby or visit attruby.com. That's ATTRUBY.com to learn more. It's time to get busy living.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda. It's time to drive smarter with high-tech features and excellent reliability. Check out the Honda Civic, Accord, or HR-V. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 4.99% APR on a 2025 Civic or a 3.99% APR on a 2025 Accord or HR-V.
See dealer for financing details. Exclude Civic SI and Type R.
Leafs Nation, if you're living under a rock, well, what are you doing? Get out from under it, because Edge just dropped the promo of a lifetime. And now, Leafs Nation, the passion that unites us all kicks off tomorrow night. But before we get there, we stop right here on Offside with our friends from Sticks to Six. I got Peter with me. Peter, how fired up did that video by Edge at center ice for the Maple Leafs get you?
Oh man, if you wanted to drop a perfect, hype up video at the right moment just before the game is about to start or like the day before, that is the perfect moment done by, the Maple Leafs media team. The production value was fantastic. If it doesn't get your blood pumping or, the juices going, I mean, you're probably not being a hockey fan, or you're not being very right in that regard. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, it kind of takes my breath away because of how, energetic it really is in that sense. And, you got one of the biggest Maple Leaf fans out there. You've seen him go to games, and having him at center ice is just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I mean, passion levels are an overload right now. I mentioned that, like tweeting it out about the video about that. And yeah, I mean, if this doesn't get you going for the Battle of Ontario, I don't know what will.
Well, there's that. And then, of course, Max Domi last year before the playoffs puts out a video. Now this season does the same thing. Mm-hmm. This guy is ready as well to run through a wall. So there's a lot of hype videos going on right now. Everybody kind of getting behind this. But, of course, we're also seeing all the old footage. And we'll get to the early 2000s versus now soon. But that old footage, too, of Tucker storming the bench, obviously. Oh. Now, new bench boss Travis Green in Ottawa, a part of the Maple Leafs at that point in time, battling the bench at that time. So it all ties together too. So we're gonna get to that in a little bit. But man,
it does. I just hope Travis doesn't forget where he initially came from, and also who his true colors really lied, because he was with the blue and white before he went over to the Senators. And Just saying.
A long time ago, you were wearing these proper colors, sir. So remember where your true allegiances lie. You were spilling blood on the right side at one time. All right, so let's put a bow on the season that was for the Maple Leafs. This season for me, it seemed like fans were more divided throughout the season. No matter what the Leafs did, we all knew the playoffs were going to be the measuring stick, the litmus test, whatever you want to call it for this squad. But for whatever reason, Craig Berube coming in, everybody was really like, well, is this going to work? Is his brand of hockey going to work as it's pushed on these guys? Because we remember Mike Babcock tried to play a similar heavy type kind of game with this squad when they were young and maybe not the time to do it. But Berube comes in, wants that same thing, says that's his philosophy. And for me, I know for you guys, we knew it was going to take time for this squad to buy in. And there were some bumps in the road. There were some issues and things that need to get on track. We all wanted Marc Savard fired the first half of the season because the power play was dismal. We were all excited about our PK coach up on the bench, Lane Lambert, freaking out, screaming, yelling. We loved the passion he brought there. But it seemed like everything started to click. And even more so after the Four Nations, this team went on a run that would have put them at about 122-point pace if they did that all season long, which is absolutely beautiful. But it took a while to get there. So for me, I look at this season and I say, hey, we became first in the Atlantic, something we haven't done in a very, very long time, being first in our division. You can throw away that year for the Canadian division. That doesn't really matter because it wasn't a real division to begin with. It was just a holdover. But this season as a whole, I think this team really learned how to come together as a unit, but also learned to play the proper way. A lot of low-scoring games, keeping yourself in it, but also finding ways to come back in games, which in years past, we see the attitude on the bench. Heads down, guys kind of like checked out, done with the game because they're down by 2 or 1. And even in the last game of the season where it means nothing, this team still found a way to figure it out and get the victory. So for me, it looks like all the Craig Berube building blocks are there. So I want to know for you, what was the bow on the season? How do you measure this season under Craig Berube?
Yeah, bow on the season, I think at the moment, like this final stretch, I think it was the bow on the season where you knew the Atlantic Division title was within your grasp. And I think you needed at least 4 or 5 points in order to secure it, which would have given you 2-3 games max in order to get those points, secure it. I would have thought that maybe, playing really good 500 hockey would have got the job done, but still keeping those good habits. They went 5-0 down that stretch, and it was absolutely impressive to see, like you mentioned, that game against the Detroit Red Wings, meaningless game, and you see them still try and push back. Philip Myers just going full-on dangles on the Detroit Red Wings. Mitch Marner with that,
but
twice. Mitch Marner with that amazing, in the corner pass to Chris Tanev, which was very reminiscent to that of McDavid at the Four Nations Cup in that game winner, albeit to the defenseman as opposed to one of the best players in the world. And then Scott Laughton just being in the perfect position for that game-winning goal. Are all the way that they played the games down the stretch against teams like, the LA Kings, Tampa Bay Lightning, even desperate teams like the Montreal Canadiens, Columbus Blue Jackets as well. They played to their system. They played to their strengths. And even so, there were some close games. There were moments like in that Blue Jackets game where, the offense clicked. They were getting goals and they didn't have to let their defensive game take a back seat or let their offense take a back seat while having to defend the lead or anything like that. They played at a very even keel pace where both the offense was going, the defense was going. And I think for me, in regards to Craig Berube overall, he set the tone from training camp. And I remember doing a little bit of a preview of what I noticed during the preseason. They were working a lot on, 2-on-1s, 1-on-1 situations where that is going to be the hallmark of every situation or most of the situations in the playoffs where you're going to have those aggressive battles. We're going to see that with the Ottawa Senators very much in those 1-on-1 battles along the boards, in the corners, in front of the net. And it looked like they were buying into that system right away, playing the right way, being aggressive and tenacious within their own right. Obviously, you're not going to see Mitch Marner lay the body as much as that compared to Matthew Knies. Austin Matthews can be a little bit physical, but he's not overly physical. The way that they played to their strengths, to me, was the sticking point from the beginning of the season, even onward. Like you mentioned, there were hiccups along the road. There was a little bit of a stretch where they weren't at their best. Power play wasn't good. PK was great. Now it's kind of reverse where maybe even they weren't scoring. The power play was still looking very good with their movement and their chances and everything like that. But overall, I think this was a fantastic first season with Craig Berube. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I saw a stat where Berube had a 50-win season. I don't think the Maple Leafs really had that under Sheldon Keefe. No. Again, I could be wrong, but okay, so there we go. To me, I think that Berube was trying to keep them all in line and play the right way. And if it does get a little bit out of character for them, he's not afraid to let them know that what they're doing isn't great. We see him stop the practice where he's yelling at the top of his lung, dropping F-bombs left, right, and center. He knows that they're not clicking as well as they should. He knows how this team plays. He knows how well they can play. And now he got the most out of them. Now, like you mentioned, this is now where the important question has to be answered. Can they find that consistency and that level of play that they had during the regular season and translate it into the playoffs? Because it has been hit or miss. You see performances come and go between the core four or even core five if you want to insert Matthew Knies in there right now, but he's been absolutely fantastic in his first two postseasons. So all in all, great season, a lot of positives, but now the real work begins.
The real work begins, but at the same time, I mean, you can use all the building blocks that they've had and the stumbling blocks as well, because now you know how to overcome those things as well, like the power play not clicking. You know how to rotate in and out different guys that may give you a different look to help just unease the tension, whatever needs to be done there for that group. And the other thing, too, is the healthy bodies, which we'll get into in a second. Yeah. But yeah, putting a bow on this season, they have done things this season that I haven't seen them do in a long time. And the buy-in to shot blocking and playing a full 200-foot game is huge from this squad. Usually you get flybys. Now, the only guy that I would say has a flyby pass seems to be Craig Berube's. One of his favorite guys is William Nylander. You know, he's allowed to blow the zone. That seems to be the MO, to have that opportunity to come down the wing and do his snipe show, which he usually does. That seems to be an understanding they both have, and he's mentioned that throughout the season as well. Maybe it wasn't just being so hard on him, he'd say. Maybe it's more listening to the player. And maybe they have that relationship, and you see the video from David Alter not too long ago of, you know, it's Berube and Nylander having kind of an animated conversation, not heated by any stretch of the means, and Savard trying to do the don't look over here kind of thing. But, you know, that's just what you do with a guy like Willie, is you try to be on the page with him, and he's gotten the best out of him. 45 goals. He's looked great. The back check is there. Not every single shift, not every single night. There's still the cross the blue line pass in a power play with a guy in the middle, which you should not do. William Nylander move. But I think Berube's got the best out of him and the best out of guys who come in the lineup, like Nick Robertson. So, I mean, if we need a goal, maybe sit him for a game and throw him in for the next one, because you know he's bonus and ready to go to score. So, but I want to ask you, obviously, everybody's got a routine for the playoffs. Everybody's got something that they do to get themselves mentally prepared, because let's face it, we're Leaf fans and we need to be mentally prepared for whatever's going to happen. So give me a walkthrough on Peter's game day at home. What do you do? How do you get prepped for the game if you're not going to the square or not going to the game?
Yeah, you know, I tend to stay at home and watch the game on my screen. I mean, there are odd times where, you know, go out and hang out with friends, watch a game, but most of the time I want to be focused and dialed in. I want to analyze every single play, every single situation as much as possible. So that way, whenever I start to write about something, I at least have something to fall back on and use certain examples. I want to be very detailed and all that. I remember as a kid, I know we're going to get to the early thousands with the Battle of Ontario very soon, but I remember as a kid too, like how I interacted or how I acted as a kid, as a fan, or compared to how I am right now. Like completely different people. Like if I have to go back and tell myself to, like, you know, calm down a little bit, I would tell myself to calm down, you know, my 8, 9, 10-year-old self or whatever. But yeah, no, most of the time I'm just there. I'm analyzing, I'm watching the plays unfold as try to give my critique as well, even when I'm like live tweeting during, you know, games and all that. I try to be as analytical and detailed as possible, where, you know, I'm very very unbiased. I'm very even keel, where if there's a great play, I'm going to, attribute that. If there's a bad play, there's going to be that. But yeah, I'm kind of low key watching games. Most of it is by just on myself. So I'm in the zone with everything that I'm basically no one's bothering me. I'm by myself, and that's just how it is. I mean, and every single time there is a Maple Leaf goal, especially during the postseason, you can't help but feel that emotion and, raise the voice a little bit, get a little animated and everything like that. But yeah, no, I'm basically just very even keel, very analytical, and just focus on my own thing.
All right. Well, I'm a way different watcher than you are. So let me break this down. Obviously, if you're following along here watching today, you've probably watched some of the videos or some of the lives over on TikTok. And basically, we've got a little bit of a following, a little bit of friendship going on. We always have one of these, a puck off from our friends over at Boxing Rock. But we've got a couple of traditions. When the Leafs need a goal, we throw on the old puck off playoff beard. We throw that on. We get a little weird stroking that there. And then when we need to feel the nerves, Smokey over in Saskatchewan owns 21 First Street Brewing sent me this. And we give it a little rattle when we're just feeling the nerves. We shake it up a little bit, whatever works. And you know what? When we did all of those things against Tampa, we went on to the second round. Now, last season, I was down in Florida watching the games because my daughter was in cheer. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have all of my stuff with me. When we got back, that's when the Leafs mounted the comeback and forced Game 7. So I'm not saying it's because of these things, but sure feels like it. So I'm like you, though. When they score a goal, I am absolute freak show. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I'm hooting, I'm hollering. Regular season, I'm a little bit more reserved. It's like, yeah, it's a fist pump. Okay, we're good. It doesn't matter. In the playoffs, power play goal, regular goal, does big hit, I'm in it.
Empty net goal, who cares?
I don't care. Just get it. Make it happen. And I do think we will see making it happen. So, yeah, drop your playoff routine. If you're watching this right now, drop your playoff routine, either under 6 and the 6 guys or underneath our stuff. Drop it. Let us know what you're doing. I want to see it. Now, something we wanted to see. Early 2000s clips, they get me fired up because I hear a lot of Sens fans, got a lot of DMs, a lot of messages. Hi, John. I see you, Mr. Trache. And I know you're going to push the button extra loud on Game 3. I know you've already said that. Don't worry. But I got a lot of chirps and a lot of, hey, the past is the past. Well, the past is a good indicator for the present. And I like that because the Senators used to beat the Maple Leafs pillar to post in the early 2000s in the regular season. It used to happen. And then you get to the playoffs, and Ottawa fans were where they are right now, sitting on a high horse because they swept the season series this year, thinking that everything's perfect. Well, that used to happen. And the Leafs always beat them in the playoffs, swept them once as well. And shout out to Adam Sandler for his Ottawa, 3 Cheers for Ottawa song. Beautiful. Put that out on Twitter today. Go listen to it. You'll have some fun with it. But I like the early 2000s because of the way it was. It was a rivalry. It was heated. And it's going to be at that level again. I wonder the health of Brady Tkachuk and what he's going to be able to do in this series. Hockey players in the playoffs, they hold nothing back. So if someone's got something that's nicked up, we've seen it. Whether it's a slash on the wrist with a guy who's got a sore paw or someone's got a sore leg, you see a little bit extra hacking and whacking. Whatever Brady's got going on, you know the Leafs are going to target. Same goes for Matthews. We know Matthews looks healthier than he's ever been, but he's just one wrong movement away, as you've seen that Buffalo game earlier in the season where he got hit from not feeling so great. So the early 2000s to me was a battle. It was a gong show, and I think we're going to get there now. I think it's going to go ratcheted up. We saw what the Tkachuk brothers did in the Four Nations Cup to try to set the tone against Canada. Kind of backfired later on, going too hard, too fast, which hopefully Brady brings it down a little bit for the Sens. Or maybe he doesn't for us Leaf fans, and we don't have to deal with them throughout the season or throughout the series here. But for me, there is the ingredients here to have some fun. You got guys in our lineup like Simone Benoit, Jake McCabe, Max Domi, even Matthew Nyes, who's kind of modeled his game a little bit after the Brady way. Doesn't have the short fuse like he does, but plays physical. Will mix it up. Will do whatever he needs to do. Brandon Carlo as well. Scott Lawton. We have guys now that are willing to, hey, to do those kind of dirty things that need to be done. Even Oliver Ekman-Larsson, for all the talk of him being an offensive guy, has kind of been a grumpy old man with the Maple Leafs, and I'm enjoying it. I love the throwback checks. I love all those things that he does as well. So it has the elements that the old series, and plus there is a McCabe and a Domi in the series yet again.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, this harkens back. So I'm rubbing my hands. But for you, the early 2000s, we love it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see comparables here? Do you see that this could be a powder keg ready to explode for a great series?
I mean, the history is there, like you mentioned. I mean, the Maple Leafs do have the advantage in the postseason, whereas Ottawa Senators had the advantage in the regular season. I believe the first time when they met, I think Ottawa was 1-3-1 against Toronto, and then Toronto went on to win their first series. I will say this: I get the passes in the past, and it could lead and rekindle that. It's definitely going to rekindle that fire. Let's not kid ourselves. But there is a new wave, a new generation of this rivalry forming. Like you mentioned, there was a McCabe, there was a Domi, but there was, Shane Corson, Gary Roberts, Travis Green, as you mentioned. There's even Curtis Joseph losing his cool at certain times, Darcy Tucker. I mean, Ottawa had Daniel Alfredson, Chris Neal, Zdeno Chara, Chris Phillips. They had their own, group of star players, Wade Redden, guys that really like to push that needle and play with that edge and everything like that. But now, like you mentioned, there's still another McCabe and Domi, all right, different first names, not Brian and or Ty. But, like you mentioned, there are guys that can play that physical edge that can match that of the Sens. And I think that one of my things that I wrote about recently, if the Maple Leafs win, can they match that physicality that the Sens can play with every single time? And we have, I think, even number of players that have over, 100 hits. And I think one player that each have 200, Tkachuk being on Ottawa, Benoit being on Toronto. But yeah, I feel like, again, what happened, in 2003, 2004 was the last time that happened, is going to rewrite itself as a new chapter this time around with the new faces, new generation line of players. I just feel like it's going to be a very heated and intense atmosphere. And I think the first 10 minutes is going to be intense from the very first puck drop. Like you mentioned, there are also guys that can handle their own. Steven Lorentz, Scott Laughton, as you mentioned as well. These are guys that you brought in and part of your depth, where if you do play that matching game where you put them against maybe in one of their second or third line players, they're going to match that intensity and they're going to wear you down just as much as Brady Tkachuk is going to wear down no matter who he faces.
Yep.
I will say that I agree in the sense that Tkachuk does play with that no bars hold mentality. Like, he's going after you and he's looking for a thunderous crunch every single time. But that did backfire in the Four Nations, where it did create an injury. Now, if that same thing happens again, that could be a detriment to the Ottawa Senators, where your captain goes down, who plays with his heart on his sleeve. There's no doubt about that. But if he goes in and he makes a wrong hit, or he takes an awkward tumble where he maybe even re-aggravates the same injury that he had, who knows what can happen. And now you're back in square one with the Ottawa Senator teams down the stretch where they played well without their captain, but now you're even in a bigger hole, in a bigger moment in the postseason. So yeah, there are a lot of storylines that can really dictate the new chapter for this rivalry. Again, the fact that Toronto has played relatively well against Ottawa and have come out on top every single time is there. But let's not kid ourselves. I mean, there's the potential for an upset because of how well Ottawa plays, how much structure they have under Travis Green, how physical they can be, but also in terms of just playing with house money. There's no pressure on them. All the pressure is on the Leafs because of their history and how they only have one series win in these last 8-9 years in the Matthews era. So definitely a lot riding on the series, and it's going to be an interesting battle. But yeah, fireworks are definitely going to be going this time around once again.
One guy that I will mention, and we'll talk about Leafs lines in a bit, but I will throw Max Pacioretty out there. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that is now healthy, and in 37 games, I believe it's 105 or 125 hits he's thrown as well. Yeah. So that number is not lost on anyone. He's a guy who used to be a skilled player, but understood the bottom six role very well and was known this season with the Leafs to throw those big time thunderous hits along the wall that rattled the glass and really would get a playoff crowd hyped up, but also would draw a reaction from the Ottawa Senators, which is what you are looking for in those moments. So if he can do that and draw a couple penalties his way as well, I think Max Pacioretty has an opportunity to be a bit of an X factor. And it's not lost on Berube, as he said, he wants to reward the lineup that was there, but nothing is set in stone for tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. But we'll talk about the Ottawa Senators here in just a moment. But first, obviously, both of us here, we are with the Hockey Podcast Network, and they have partnered up with DraftKings. You see the promo code there, THPN. The NBA 82-game season is done, and now the fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing bets on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30, 40, or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $200 instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. That's THPN. That's the code for THPN new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only at DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for your problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccp.org. Please play responsible. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age varies and eligibility by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/audio. So there you have it. Check out our friends DraftKings. Use the promo code THPN for the NBA playoffs and also for the NHL playoffs, which we are hyping up right now. All right, so the Sens. We'll talk about them just for a moment. Obviously, this team has come a long way. They are the pesky Sens for years is what they were dubbed. And you saw the picture of Brady Tkachuk when he started with the Sens to now. He now is looking like Bane walking through the hallway, just ready to take on the Dark Knight that is the Toronto Maple Leafs. But this lineup, it is no joke. They do have players that really can get you up out of your seat, bringing in a guy like Cousins as well for that lineup down the bottom. Obviously, what you got out of Buffalo as well. This team here is really, really, really good. Guys like Thomas Chabot, guys like Jake Sanderson. And then the X factor to me in goal is Linus Ullmark. Now, what they get from him, we'll see. The Leafs were able to kind of get into his skin last year as a Boston Bruin. But for you, what do the Senators bring that the Leafs might have to be worried about? For me right now, it's that power play that they seem to be rolling into the playoffs with. The Sens are on fire with it. But what do you see from the Senators, Pete?
Yeah, it's just their heavy forecheck. Like I mentioned, their the ability to match their physical play is going to dictate how well the Maple Leafs are going to play in this whole entire series. And if they can't match that physicality, it's going to be advantage Ottawa time and through because of how well or how quick they could get on the forecheck, how they could wear opponents down low, and how quickly they could regain possession and quickly get that puck out into the open space. And they know that someone is there to receive that pass for a chance and a scoring opportunity on that. And I look back to that first, to a recent game between the Senators and the Montreal Canadiens, where just seconds in, I believe it was the Shane Pinto line where they go down, they're attacking hard, and then the puck comes out, and then they score a goal like seconds into the game. And that to me is something that has worked to the Senators' advantage time and time again this season. They basically have the depth or the top six that could do just that. They have dangerous offensive producers in Tim Stützle, in Drake Batherson, in Shane Pinto. And I again, that Dylan Cousins addition was absolutely underrated. And that basically vaulted them into playoff, contention status. And that means that, they're in it to win it. They found an opportunity to improve their roster, and they did just that. As for the bottom part of the lineup, I mean, every single time they played against the Maple Leafs, it was always like that third and fourth line that always got things going or scored a key goal at a key moment. Now, Toronto's third and fourth line have done that more often or have done that as well, but it feels like the fourth line has been more impactful for the Maple Leafs ever since Ryan Reeves got sent down, where The fourth line was a little bit more noticeable, and the third line has been kind of still trying to find that identity, where I think with Lawrence, Lawton, and Yarncroke, right now, I think they're starting to come together and they're forming that chemistry where, you have two guys that can hit, you have guys with speed, and you have a powerful shooter in Scott Laughton where he could just blast it from the point where if that puck comes to him, he's going to wire it from the blue line. He doesn't care who's in the way.
Play when he's on a breakaway too, just to wind up and slap.
Exactly. I mean, and that could throw anybody off. I mean, he almost scored a goal where he rang it off the pipe. So that's definitely going to throw goaltenders off like Linus Ullmark. As a potential, I mean, he is going to be the starter, but as like a potential one-on-one situation, if he sees Scott Laughton coming down, he's going to have to be very aggressive to try and take that shooting lane away if that is the case. But yeah, I think with the Sens, they're deep in their top six, but as just a whole unit, they have depth and they have players that could chime in and produce every now and then. But to me, if something happens to within their core roster, the one that they're going to ice in game one, if something happens to, let's say, Brady Tkachuk, someone's definitely going to move up in the lineup, but who you have to replace in terms of the bottom part of the lineup where someone's moving up, you don't really have that. And you really don't have that depth on defense as well. Cause I know the Maple Leafs, they're definitely going to have their options where you have Max Pacioretty possibly coming in if, let's say, Nick Robertson doesn't play well. If Bobby McMahon doesn't play well, that left side is up for grabs. You have Dakota Mermis and you have Philip Myers on the back end where, say there's another injury, you could count on one of those two guys to come in because they have played relatively well. I really like Dakota Mermis down the stretch, and especially that game against Carolina. I thought he looked fantastic. The Maple Leafs have the depth that if something happens, they can insert someone into the lineup. Senators really can't afford that. And even so, like Anton Forsberg, he has looked great this season, but down the stretch, it's kind of, I think his last game was not that great overall. But, you brought in Linus Ullmark to be that guy to backstop you in the postseason where the numbers don't reflect that as much. It's a small sample for like 10 games. But let's face it, he's got a lot more experience than, let's say, Anthony Stolarz at this point. So could you give the advantage to Ullmark? Absolutely. But you know that he hasn't quite lived up to his name in the postseason compared to what he's done in the regular season because he does have that Vezina trophy. It's just minimal playoff experience, minimal success for him as well.
Yeah, look at the lineup here for the Ottawa Senators, and a couple players jump out to me as guys that the Leafs probably will target, have an issue with. One is Ridley Gregg. We all know what happened there.
We all know that, yeah.
That's going to be someone I think you'll see someone take a run at and lay a thunderous hit just because everybody in Leafs Nation knows what happened that day.
Still in the back of the heads.
Everybody off in the right direction if someone lays him out. And I don't mean hurt him. I just mean throw a big body hit along the glass, rattle it, and just let him know, hey, we haven't forgotten what you did. So that'll be something to set up. But you talk about guys moving up. Tkachuk, we don't know exactly how healthy he is. But a guy like David Perron, he's built for the playoffs. That is a guy that has been through some battles and understands what needs to be done. And Craig Berube knows him very well. And don't lose Claude Giroux either. I know he's a little longer in the tooth, and he's not 2015 Claude Giroux, but this guy will still score timely goals, and the game slows down a little bit in the playoffs, so it'll be more tailored to the way he plays the game as well. But someone I think is an X factor for the Ottawa Senators is Fabian Zetterlund. They have him down on the fourth line, but I think he's going to be kind of what we think for like Scott Laughton or Pacioretty as a person who will score that timely, greasy goal. Whatever reason, I hear his name, and I feel that he's going to be someone to be a thorn in the Maple Leaf side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we talk about the Cousins addition. Zetterlund was that name to bring in that could shore up their bottom six as well. And he plays with the speed. He plays with the pace. And he's been a guy that he has been noticeable in terms of, creating opportunities, creating offensive chances. It's just that the connect or the conversion just hasn't been there like it was with the San Jose Sharks. Again, albeit he's in a different role right now. But I do feel like he is going to be an X factor for the Sens. For me, it's going to be Shane Pinto. I think he's one of the more underrated players on the Ottawa Senators right now because we know about, Batherson leading the way, Stützle, Tkachuk. To me, Pinto has been that, that is, I want to see, he's been like one of those Energizer Bunny players for them every single time where he can make the hit, he can score a timely goal. And I think he does, again, kind of like a lot of players on the Sens lineup, he's made for the playoffs where he's going to be very impactful in your face and he's going to, pounce on those opportunities any chance that he can get. And I think he scored a couple of key goals against the Maple Leafs, even one really, 1 in a million chance deflection that bounces off a bunch of bodies and it goes in. And I think it was in that, 2-1 game where it was very, very close, where Toronto had an edge over the Senators, but the Senators just eked out the win because of that goal. So again, in the playoffs, deflections happen, random weird plays happen like that, and the hockey gods could be on a player's side. It was on they were on their side for Shane Pinto's goal in the regular season. He could be one of those key players for the Sens going forward and could be scoring a timely goal.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. All right, let's put the Sens in a little box here and move them aside because we all know that's what's going to happen in this series, but we'll get to that in a moment. The lines for the Maple Leafs right now, obviously, we know what they are. Craig Berube is saying we're rolling the same lines. One player to me that has come on in the last, I'd say, 10 to 12 games, and I've been a proponent of not having him in the lineup because I don't think his face-off prowess is strong enough, and that's Pontus Holmberg. Mm-hmm. But this guy, for me, for whatever reason, last 10 to 12 games, has played with a little bit more grit and edge and attitude to his game. Something you really haven't seen out of him, but the battle for the pucks, not so much just like hitting or anything like that, but just the more able to grind it out and stick with the play, he's really kind of caught my attention with that. And I'm wondering if you're seeing the same thing or if I'm just maybe putting rose-colored glasses on a guy just because he's plugged into this lineup. But for me, it looks like he's actually starting to understand, hey, I'm going to be a bottom six guy. To stay in the lineup, this is what I need to do.
No, absolutely. And similar to Nick Robertson, I think Holmberg was one of those players that Berube really liked. He just hasn't quite found his game at this current level. I mean, he's still young. He only came over like about a couple seasons ago, so he was still getting his feet wet early on. But right now, there's the potential of him being a potential important factor on that third line. I believe he was centering McMahon and Robertson. So obviously you got the speed game of McMahon and Robertson, where maybe Holmberg lacks that, aspect to his game. But he does have the smarts and awareness, and he can be aggressive and tenacious on the forecheck. I do feel that no matter what happens with David Kampf at this point, you're probably looking at Kampf still being on the fourth line, but at the same time, if Holmberg is playing well further up in the lineup and Kampf isn't, and Scott Laughton is locking down the 4C spot, he's on the outside looking in, and a player that's going to have a hard time coming in because down this stretch, this current lineup that's penciled in right now at the moment is what's likely going to happen in games 1 and 2 unless something happens, injury, player doesn't play well, someone else is coming in the lineup because that's playoff hockey. I do think that Holmberg has solidified himself as a potential important cog for this team. Again, he may not put up the points, but that physical play, that intensity, that drive, that determination, that's what's going to separate players from, even if you're not producing, it's still going to separate you from being in the press box, watching down at a key moment in it, or watching down from like game 1, game 2 or whatever, and being on the ice and making your presence felt. And I think he's made his presence felt, and he's going to do whatever he can to stay in the lineup and not be taken out.
Well, one thing, that line is really done well is the cycle game, keeping the opposition in their own offensive zone. So that way you can just do what you need to do, then allowing the big boys to come on with a tired line on the ice, change out, get it done, and score some timely goals. That's one thing that line's really done well. Same with the fourth line with Lorentz and Laughton and whoever you want to plug into the other side, whether it's Jaron Croak, doesn't matter. But I can definitely see, again, with Patch Reddy getting an opportunity throughout this as well. And they got guys that they'll cycle in and cycle out. And maybe someone's not going one night, you swap it in, swap it out. But that's the luxury the Leafs have had this season. Now with the playoffs here, you might even see a Ryan Reeves for one game if they're up so much in the series and they just know that Ottawa might just be taking some liberties. Who do you put out there but the sheriff himself, just to make sure nothing really bad happens, but he's up with the team again for a reason. He's not just there just to be a guy on the ice. So there may be some play there as well. But I look at one thing for the Maple Leafs different from seasons past. and it's the ability to block shots, whether it's a forward, whether it's a player down below. And do not discount for a second a guy like Brandon Carlo. His stick, they call him a vacuum right now because he just sucks in the play, which is great. But Chris Tanev is really going to earn his contract here in the playoffs. And I really, really love the fact that we have him on our side, blocking those shots, getting in key lanes, and not being afraid to do so. And for whatever reason, he blocks shots that other guys, they're gone for months. He blocks it, goes down the tunnel, comes back, bites down on whatever he needs to bite and gets back on the ice. So this decor for me is a lot different than what we're used to. And it can move the puck, but at the same time, it stops the play as well. So I love that. That is going to be an X factor for the Leafs. Not only that, but Anthony Stolarz, 8-0 in his last games, shutouts as well. This guy's confidence is booming at the right time. You have Wool as the guy that we know is going to be the heir apparent for the Maple Leaf net eventually. But right now, Stolarz seems to have found that groove, and he's a guy that I would say I'm very comfortable with going into game one and riding that wave through the playoffs, maybe until he falters. But it really feels like we have a Boston kind of 1A, 1B thing where, hey, if one guy's not so hot, just put the other guy in and we're good.
Yeah, and the one thing that you do want going into the postseason is your goalie to be hot and on top of his game, and Stolarz is doing exactly that. But on the flip side of things, we talk about the inexperience that he had as a potential starter coming into this season, where the workload was not as heavy for Stolarz. This was the season where he had like the heaviest workload, even last season with Florida. I feel like this time around, he feels a little bit more confident going in. There's no doubt about that. But we talk again, like I mentioned, the inexperience in the regular season as a starter. He only has one game, and I believe he only came into relief during the Stanley Cup run last year.
Yeah.
So we talk about Ullmark having a small sample in the playoffs, not getting good results. Stolarz really doesn't have any results to go off of in that essence. So,
yeah.
But if you're the Maple Leafs, you have to feel confident about him as your starter going in because of the fact that he is cool, calm, collected. He's very open with his communication on the ice where he's directing players what he wants to do. And everyone is listening to him. And if they're not, he's making his voice known on the ice that you got to get into position and do what you need to do kind of thing. So I do feel very confident that Stolarz is going to be the number one starter. I just can't see the fact that if he does have one bad game that you have to go back to Wall, because then you're going into that Boston situation last year and the season before where you do rotate back and forth between Swayman and Ullmark, and that could create a little bit of uncertainty and confidence in the goaltender. I think you just need to ride Stolarz till the very end, unless there is one game where you feel like Joseph Woll can bounce back and get in, but you just got to ride one goalie from start to finish. And I think Stoli has to be that guy because of how well he's played down the stretch. Again, he's had 3 shutouts during this final stretch. That's absolutely impressive. So overall, his sample size is very small in terms of postseason play record, what have you, but you have to feel confident about his play going in. There's no doubt about that. And I do agree that Wall could be, the heir apparent at some point, but if Stolarz does get them 1 round, 2, maybe 3, I think you're looking at a situation where you want to keep him in the fold as long as possible because he's kind of been that, one of the MVPs of the season for the Maple Leafs so far when he's healthy. Yep. So I think that this is his net. This is his opportunity. And I think, again, a big X factor is going to be the goalie battle because if he can outperform Linus Ullmark, advantage Toronto because he does take up a lot of the net. And I just want to chime in a little bit about the defense as well. Last season, there was no way on paper that defense was good. I mean, you had Ilya Lyubushkin on the top pairing with Morgan Riley. You had Joel Edmondson, good, but not great overall. And now you got that depth. You got that steady shutdown tandem with McCabe and Tanev that, both players have been phenomenal. They've been their best defensive pairing all season. Yep. Simon Benoit has had his struggles, but there are moments in a game where he does make his presence felt, where he's, jumping up into the play. making a big-time hit. OEL, again, fantastic addition as well on that left side. So you have the depth. You have players that can lay everything out on the line. You have that transitional game. You have the breakout game. And again, the way that Brandon Carlo has fit in well with Morgan Rielly, that's just the perfect balance. And we've been trying to find that perfect balance ever since Luke Shen left. So to me, he's a little bit more of a younger, still mobile, still very, very, I can't find the word for that, but he's very steady, very capable. There we go. That was probably the one word that was eluding me. Steady, capable defender that can really shut things down and really transition the play going forward as well. So, I feel like the defense is going to be a big X factor, but then again, with Stolarz in net, he has to feel confident of who's in front of him, because if this was the same defensive pairing last year, he would have a bit of a increased workload and facing a lot of rubber, because that will definitely be the case.
Well, look at this defense core, just to touch on it one last time before we go on to our predictions for the postseason here. You look at who's left. McCabe and Rielly. When they went on to the second round against Tampa. Benoit came on last year. You got Tanev, OEL, and Brandon Carlo within the last 2 seasons. Last year, they didn't do well. But this season, it's a completely revamped D. Like you said, you can't stress enough finding the right partner for Rielly. And maybe Rielly has a little bit of a God mode playoffs like he did 2 years ago, where he went off and everybody was like, who was this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Where has this guy been? Because if you have the right guy for Rielly to freewheel, maybe it gives him a little bit of an opportunity in the playoffs again to do what he did. Yeah. But we will see what happens here. We're going to leave the Leafs and Sens to last on this one, but we're going to run through the series. Just a quick, how many games, who wins it? So I'll let you kick it off. We'll start over in the East first. Who do you have with the Habs and the Caps?
I have Washington in 7, but kind of like Ottawa possibly pushing for an upset. I would not count Montreal out because of, the run that they went on. They may not have the veteran presence, but they do have the players capable of pushing back and, creating that upset. So it's going to be a very close series, I think, more so than many people think. So that's why I have Washington in 7, just giving them that little bit of an edge.
I got the Habs in 6. And the reason why is they've been playing pretty much playoff hockey for the last little bit. Their metal is sharpened. They're ready to go. Washington's kind of been sputtering a little bit. Mm-hmm. They've been leaky for goals. So it leads me to believe that maybe Montreal gets them at the right time and is able to use that youthful exuberance of making the playoffs for the first time in a little bit to use that energy. And maybe we see the changing of the Russian guard as Demidov tops Ovechkin in this series, but we'll see. All right, Lightning Panthers, all eyes on this one. Who do you have?
This is going to be a bloodbath battle. I mean, for all the injury issues and concerns and players being out with Aaron Ekblad being suspended, the way that Tampa has just been so hot down the second half of the season, I just can't see them losing this time around to the Florida Panthers. I have them in 6 because of the fact that Nikita Kucherov is just on another level. Braden Point, again, another level. Brendan Hagel had probably one of the quietest 30-goal seasons and 30-goal, 90-point seasons actually this season. And if I just want to be a little bit, over the top and make a little prediction, I think him and Tkachuk have some unfinished business from that Four Nations fight. And I think maybe Hagel wants to go 2-0 against them. So I'm going to say Tampa Bay in 6. I think it's going to be a very competitive and very physical and intense series, but Kucherov's is on his game right now, and Vasilevsky has been really hot. I just can't overlook that.
I'm going to go Lightning in 7, and the reason why I picked 7 is because I want you to beat the ever-loving hell out of each other. Just put each other through all the misery you want, and just bang each other up to the point when you get to the second round. It was like the Leafs when they played Tampa and got to the second round. They just had no gas left in the tank. I'm hoping that's the same way this goes. I do think it'll be the Lightning. I would like it to be the Lightning because the Leafs beat them previously, and maybe something's there for them mentally where that clicks as well again. All right, Canes and Devils. How many games and why?
I have Carolina in 6, and for the same reasons that maybe other people have, I just don't see their goaltending taking the Hurricanes far. I will give them one round, but the New Jersey Devils, they've been pretty streaky themselves. They've had good moments, they've had bad moments. I know I've talked to Kyle a few times, Bossman Kyle for the Hockey Podcast Network, and he talked about how streaky Jacob Markstrom can be, where he's very strong but can let in weak goals, and that could be the difference maker in a game. And that, to me, I just don't feel that he's very confident with himself at times. I know they're out Jack Hughes. I know Dougie Hamilton's coming back, but I think that Carolina has that little edge ahead of them because of the fact that they just, I just feel like they have that intensity, and Rob Brindamore is going to instill it in them that, you haven't been well as of late. You just want to take your game another step further. So, it's unfortunate for Sheldon Keefe to be out in the first round again with a new team, but I just can't overlook what Carolina has done to this point.
Listen, we all love Sheldon Keefe as a person, but I do believe the Hurricanes take this in 6. Again, I'm with you on the goaltending for the Hurricanes. I don't think it'll hold up very long, but I do think that they have enough in the tank to beat the New Jersey Devils. That's something I think is just going to happen. For me, I've watched a bunch of Devils games. Shout out to Jim Berger, who covers a lot of their games and talks about them a lot as well. He'll be right there telling me that they're going to win the series, but I just see Carolina being too much for them to handle. And Sheldon Keefe, again, watching a first-round playoff exit unfold before his eyes. Sorry, Sheldon. It's just going to happen. All right. We got the Jets, and we got the Wild. Who do you think?
So I believe it's the Jets and Blues.
Jets and Blues. Sorry. Yep. No.
Yeah.
You're right. Sorry.
So
I was actually just looking at their highlights for whatever reason.
So I'm just checking the score right now, and it was 3-2 before I came on to record this. It's a 5-3 Winnipeg. So I was a little bit
answered in the third.
I was a little bit nervous because I thought playoff Hellebuck was coming back in, but they rode that win because of Kyle Connor, because of Mark Scheifele, and because of Alex Iafallo moving up in the lineup right now. I have Winnipeg in 5. I was contemplating about changing that later on, but I'm still going to stay in Winnipeg in 5. It could be Winnipeg in 6 because St. Louis, very, very underrated. Another potential upset where they were probably one of the better teams in the second half as well. Yep. Hot winning streak. I believe they had an 11-12 game winning streak coming into this postseason as well, or like during this half leading up to the postseason. But I feel like if Winnipeg is going to go far, they are going to ride heavy on Scheifele, Connor, and Hellebuck. Hellebuck looked to have dialed his game in just a little bit more in the third period, so that's a good sign. Good sign for me because I was a little bit nervous. If St. Louis took that first game, it's going to be history repeating for the Jets all over again. So I have Winnipeg in 5, but it could probably go maybe one game longer.
I go Jets in 6, just like you're talking about one game longer. I do think St. Louis will hang around, but ultimately the Jets will be the bigger team to take them down. And there's a lot of pressure, I would say, on the Jets to get things done. The same monk here that Toronto's had lately with the not getting it done in the playoffs, that is starting to follow the Jets as well. So they want to have a good showing here and off to a good start, picking up a Game 1 victory. So it's kind of unfair for us to say that they're going to win in any games because they've already got one under the belt. But hey, I'm going to take 6 for the Jets. We got Dallas and Colorado. I want to know who you got. I want to hear this spicy take.
The battle for Mikko Rantanen, or the Mikko Rantanen Cup battle, whatever you want to call it. I have Colorado in 6. That was my initial prediction, but I think it could, or Colorado in 7. I think it could be a little bit over earlier because of the injury situation that they have. Miro Heiskanen is starting to come back, but the news about Jason Robertson is just absolutely gut-wrenching for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah,
it's just really tough to see them have any chance without one of your star producers in the lineup. They are getting Tyler Seguin back, but you really can't compare Seguin to Robertson.
No.
And just overall, Dallas coming into wasn't as consistent as I had thought or had hoped for them being one of the perennial Stanley Cup contenders. Jake Ottinger has been very spotty, very cold as well. We talk about hot goaltenders getting hot at the right time. He just doesn't seem right or like in the right state of mind with his game at this point. And on the flip side of things, McKinnon Makar, Simple as that for Colorado. Yeah.
It's hard to go against Colorado, but I am sitting in Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia. I am going to go against them, and I'm going to say it's going to be the Dallas Stars in 6 games. I think Mikko Rantanen will take it up a notch, will take it personal, and will make this a hallmark playoffs and show Colorado just what they're missing and why they should have signed him. I think a goalie like Jake Ottinger, I know he's having his struggles right now, but I think he's a guy who can dial it in when it matters the most and come up with key saves at key times. I do think the Dallas Stars have that one for all for one mentality that started under Rick Bowness. So I really think that will still prevail here. And really, I think this team would love nothing more than to stick it to Colorado for what they did to Rance now that they have them. So I think that's what they're going to do. And I'm going to say Dallas in 6. I really think Dallas is going to take out the Avalanche, but we'll see. Next, we have the Kings taking on their favorite dance partner, the Edmonton Oilers. Every season, it's the same thing. Do you have a different outcome this time for the LA Kings?
I do, and I have the Kings in 6 for multiple reasons. Again, everyone is saying it's hard to bet against 2 of the best or 2 of the top players in the league right now, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Well, I am, unfortunately, because of the fact that you're out Mattias Ekholm. That was a big blow to their defense. Your goaltending has not been great with Stuart Skinner. And if you do get, a bad performance or 2, you're going to rely on Calvin Pickard in front of that bad defense already enough as it is with a big hole to fill with Ekholm. So to me, it just seems like they could only rely on McDavid and Draisaitl for so long. I know they've really had the Kings number and in the past, and a big reason why they've won. But with the Kings having home ice, having one of the best winning percentages on home ice this season, with a rejuvenated Darcy Kemper, Drew Doughty looks good coming back from his injury. You have a really solid top line in Kopitar, Kempe, and the way that Quentin Byfield has turned it on in the second half too has been really, really impressive. I think this is the Kings' time. I think they do get over their playoff demons against a specific opponent, just like Toronto has, just like the Winnipeg Jets have had in the past. I feel like they will overcome and come out on top against the Edmonton Oilers because for the reasons that I mentioned, it's just very tough the way that they've played. Skinner's played. Their defense hasn't looked great. So Kings in 6.
I'm going Kings in 7. I'm with you. The Mattias Ekholm injury is huge. He's a big linchpin in their defense. You lose that guy, it really starts to unravel there. Again, Skinner not playing his best hockey. What do you go to next? Are you looking for lightning in a bottle with your backup? Not exactly. It does not matter if you have McDavid, if you have Draisaitl, if you have Hyman. Go down the list of guys that are on that squad. I think it's LA's time to overtake here. Edmonton went on a run last year. Some tired bodies maybe, not expecting to go that far, whatever it may be. I think the Kings finally pull the trigger and get it done. Kings in 7. Then we have now the Minnesota Wild and the LA Kings. I was looking at the wrong one for whatever reason. So anyways, yes, it's the LA Knights. Jesus, Murphy. Here we go. WrestleMania.
Tongue twister there.
The brain. So Knights and Wild. I want to hear this one. For me, this is probably going to be the fastest series in my opinion.
Yeah, I was so close to making this a sweep, but I was nice and I gave the Minnesota Wild 1 game, Vegas in 5. Because of the fact that they're just dominant from top to bottom. I mean, Jack Eichel is just on another level right now. For once, there was no, cap circumvention or, player going on IR kind of thing with the Golden Knights. But
Mark Stone had to play in the 4 Nations, so he couldn't be healthy there, then unhealthy over here. So
exactly.
They had to do that this year.
But yeah, Eichel's been fantastic. Stone has been a very strong physical 2-way threat on both sides of the puck. Their defense is very solid. Aiden Hill looks very good. And I'm just going to say their X factor right there is Pavel Dorofeyev. I mean, again, kind of like, Brandon Hagel with a quiet 30-goal season. He had another quiet 30-goal season, power play merchant for them right there. So I just feel like they're very solid from top to bottom. 5-on-5, power play, penalty kill, you name it. It's going to be really tough for the Wild to handle. I get that Joel Eriksson Ek and Kirill Kaprizov look great coming back. It's just not enough to defeat the Knights.
I got the Evil Empire in 5 as well. I just think they have enough to do it, to get it done. Now, will it last them all playoffs? Who knows? There are some tough teams in the West. But for this series, unfortunately, to our favorites over at the Bar Down Buttes podcast, love you both, Kristen and Co. But unfortunately, I see Minnesota exiting really quickly. And unfortunately, the LA Kings are going to be the ones I think that'll have to face the Knights next. And it's just going to be a lot of Knights kicking ass all playoffs long. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that they came in the league, went to the Stanley Cup playoffs, went all the way to the final, and the Leafs haven't done it. So for me, they've always been a thorn in my side watching that happen, and all the success they've had so quickly. And you watch the other teams come in. I mean, Utah kind of relocated, so it's a little different. But then you look at Seattle and you're like, well, why didn't that happen again? Obviously, teams learned what they needed to get done. But yeah, the Knights for me are always going to be a thorn in my side. But let's do the best playoff series. It's the Leafs. It's the Sens. What do you got?
I mean, for as much as everybody wants to see a 7-game series, I'm going to try and avoid that because we know how painful Game 7s are for the Maple Leafs during this current era. Although I think if they do go to Game 7, I think they're better equipped enough to handle those.
Don't even say that. Don't even put it in the universe that there's a Game 7 that could happen. No,
probably shouldn't. But I will say this, with this current personnel, with this lineup, I will say this is the most balanced defensive unit that can play well in the playoffs. And I'm going to say Maple Leafs in 6. Because of the fact that I think if they do get to that 5th game and they're up, I think they're going to be very hungry. I think they're going to take advantage of the fact that it has happened in the past before, where I think they want to end it as soon as possible. I mean, in Game 6 against Tampa Bay, they ended it as soon as possible because I think if that went to Game 7, I don't want to put that into the universe like you just said, but who knows what could have happened then. Yeah. They went to Game 7 against Montreal in that bubble where they could have ended it in Game 5 where they were up 3-1. I think this team has the personnel and the mindset to do it now and end the series when they should with Craig Berube. There's a buy-in from the star players right now. John Tavares is on another level. Matthew Knies is playing playoff hockey throughout the whole entire season, basically. So he's been looking for this moment right now. But yeah, I say Leafs in 6, and I'm just happy that the Battle of Ontario is back.
Fired up for the Battle of Ontario. Cannot wait till tomorrow night. Hockey night in Canada. Bright lights. 2 Canadian teams getting it done, but I got the Leafs in 5. Ooh. And I say that with all respect to the Ottawa Senators. This Leafs team is hungry. They play different under Berube. They are a playoff kind of hockey team. They understand close games. They understand what to do now in certain situations, and they will not allow themselves to let the moment slip. So if they are up 3-0, 2-0 going to Ottawa, whatever it may be, there is going to be a game where Ottawa will win. Yes, I fully can concede that, but I will say the Leafs are going to take this in 5, get it done on home ice, wrap it up, and be ready for the next round, ready to go. They're not going to let things linger. And for whatever reason, I feel if this team does get behind in a game, I have full confidence that they can come back and get it done. It's no darn we're down and it's over, it's done, we'll move on to the next game. No, they'll dig in that game and figure it out. And I'm liking the fact, too, that they also can move guys up and down and around the lineup to move players away from matchups, which is something we wanted Sheldon Keefe to do for a very long time. Craig Berube is not opposed to throwing a Willie Matthews-Marner on a 4th-line shift just to get them out there for a little repetition, or even move a guy up on a line to make it different. You look at what Boston did with Pasta that one season in the playoffs against the Leafs, where it really did galvanize the Bruins. He moved down to the 2nd line, scored some key goals. They can do that with Willie and Marner. They can flip them from top to bottom. It doesn't matter. So this team is not afraid to make the in-game adjustments that we've all screamed for years. So that makes me happy. And also, you have hometown boys who want to make a mark.
Yeah.
You got Domi who wants to make a mark. You got Lorentz who wants to make a mark. Lawton, Tanev, all of these guys want to make a mark as a hometown Maple Leaf player. And of course, the biggest one of all, who's waiting for a big, fat, juicy contract, Mitch Marner, I say, has a playoffs for the ages. Same with John Tavares, but I think Marner more so. I think he elevates that game to blocking shots and doing whatever needs to be done to leave zero doubt in Leafs fans' mind that he wants to be here with this team for the rest of his career and get it done. And I think if he has a big playoffs, he will be that player. But it all starts tomorrow night. Cannot wait, my friend.
Similar to Austin Matthews taking charge in that series against the Tampa Bay Lightning, William Nylander coming back and making his presence felt. I feel like Mitch Marner has a lot to prove this time around, and I feel like he is going to be the difference maker in this series. I agree with you based on what happened with the previous contract negotiation. Everything's lined up for him to have a big playoff, and I think he's poised to do that. He rose to the occasion in the Four Nations. He's come up clutch in certain situations down the stretch. I think he's going to be the team leader in points, and he's going to be leading the charge offensively for the Leafs. And just one shout out to Scott Laughton too, because I think at the end of their last game, he was already watching clips of the old 2004 or the older rivalries of everything else. So if he comes out full like guns a-blazing, acting like Darcy Tucker, I am all for that. So let's get this going.
I cannot wait. We have the ingredients. Everything's ready to go. So, folks, throughout the playoffs, make sure you follow the guys over at Sticks in the Six. Absolute beauty of a podcast. Love them. They've always been willing to jump on and talk some puck. So go follow them. Go check it out. All playoffs and off season and the next season. Keep listening. Keep the ratings up. Keep it going. But, folks, tomorrow night, Battle of Ontario, hockey night in Canada. We'll be watching. You'll be watching, so let's get it. Go, Leafs, go. Leafs in 5. He says 6. Doesn't matter. They're moving on. That's all that matters. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what it is around here, though. This is Offside Hockey Talk, where the Maple Leafs and hockey come to talk.
Hi, Morgan Freeman here. I want to talk to you about a serious, rare heart condition called ATTR cardiac amyloidosis, or ATTR-CM. Now, I don't have the condition myself, but if you're living with ATTR-CM, it's important to know about treatment options like Attruby, also known as acoramidis, because you have the power of choice when it comes to treatment. Attruby is an old medicine used to treat adults with ATTR-CM to reduce death and hospitalization due to heart issues. Tell your doctor if you're pregnant, plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding, and about the medications you take. The most common side effects were mild and included diarrhea and abdominal pain. If you have ATTR-CM, talk to your cardiologist about Attruby or visit Attruby.com. That's ATTRUBY.com to learn more. It's time to get busy living.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda. It's time to drive smarter with high-tech features and excellent reliability. Check out the Honda Civic, Accord, or HR-V. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 4.99% APR on a 2025 Civic or a 3.99% APR on a 2025 Accord or HR-V.
See dealer for financing details. Exclude Civic SI and Type R.